If you were an administrator or a records keeper in Benton High, you would know this young man is Jarek Haynes. But everybody who's worked with him through the years knows him as JD. And JD graduated from Benton High this last spring with a 3.72 GPA. Weighted at 3.78 because of the honors classes and the IB classes he took. He was in the top 20% of his class. I think he was 49th out of 294. And a pleasure to work with, sometimes a little, but and the interpreters know what I'm talking about, and some of you do too if you work with him at a lower level. Great kid, smart kid. His folks have done a wonderful job raising him. Just a quality person. On his way to OSU in a couple weeks to study maybe engineering.
Yeah.
You'll decide when you get there. But anyway, JD Haynes is going to share his story growing up here working with a lot of you in the regional program. So JD, it's yours today.
So first, just let me say I'm really honored to be here today, and thank you very much for inviting me. I've never really given a speech before, so kind of bear with me. It's a little, random stuff. Also, my mom has a different dad than my aunt and uncle, and the doctors thought that my grandmother and my aunt and uncle's dad had a recessive gene together, and then they had a problem with the hearing genome in their body. And so my aunt and uncle started school really early, and then they learned like vocal cords by like blowing on feathers and stuff for like original, deaf learning policies and stuff. And then when my mom's family moved to California when she was still young, they taught my aunt and uncle Zach signing English. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it's kind of like a previous ASL kind of thing. And then so they got good lip reading and verbal skills as they grew up. My aunt has a daughter who's also deaf. Her name's Joia, and she is completely deaf. She has no hearing or lip reading skills. She is actually she went to OSD and graduated, and then she's going to Gallaudet right now. When my mom married my dad, she never thought she would have a deaf kid because they thought that my grandmother and then my aunt and uncle's parents, or aunt and uncle dad, had the recessive gene, but it was actually my mom carried the gene also. So my hearing is my Cochlear hair cells in my implant, or in my hearing, in my ear, they're slowly dying, so I have a progressive loss. So every year it gets a little worse and worse. When I was born, my brother was born perfectly fine hearing, but they didn't actually know I was deaf until I was about 4. When I was born, I had colic for a long time, and so basically I would cry and cry and cry. And my mom said I had a little devil mark on my forehead. My dad actually threatened to leave me on the porch one day and let somebody take me, and my mom said that wouldn't work because I'd be back the next afternoon. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with hearing impairment, and I got my first hearing aids in California. And then we moved up to Oregon, and I started working with Carolyn Nielsen. There she is. Okay. Yeah. And so I started working with Carolyn Nielsen, and she helped me with our hearing programming and all that kind of stuff, and setting up with hearing aids and all that kind of thing. I went to Jewel School my entire elementary school year, and I worked with several speech therapists. The longest, but Colin McLaughlin. Okay. And then so I worked with Colleen until 8th grade, and she was a wonderful speech therapist and hearing advocate. And then so I went to Jewel, and then my later years at Jewel, I received a second pair of hearing aids, which were also analog, or analog, just like my original ones. And then for 6th grade, I went to High Desert Middle School, but I didn't really like it that much, so I transferred to Cascade for 7th and 8th, and we moved on to the west side, so it was closer too. And then I continued working with Cochlear until 8th grade. I went to Bent High School. In my freshman year, I worked with Tammy Jerkin. Okay, yeah. And then sophomore year, I started working with Alan Yankus, who's continued to be my hearing speech guy since then. So, for freshman year and most of my sophomore year, along with the previous school years, I never had used an interpreter or anything before. I just kind of had to look at the teacher and read their lips a lot. And so my sophomore year, during my English class, I had my first interpreter, and that was Aaron McHenry and Becky Gibson. Was it Becky? It was. But? Okay. And then my junior and senior year, I had an interpreter full time, along with with reading and stuff. But I mostly use my interpreters, and they've been wonderful. So it's really good. Plus, they're kind of nice. You can keep yourself a little entertained during the long During my sophomore and my junior year of high school, I received my 3rd grade experience, which is the one right here, and that's an analog. So digital, and it runs like on a computer program, so that some are raised up and some are raised lower and stuff. So it's not just like a flat blowout of sound. So I recently have been started going to OSHU and debating on whether or not to get a Cochlear implant. And so they finally figured out I was a candidate, and I went to get my surgery on July 11th of this year. And 2 weeks later, I got my external heart, so it's currently activated, and it works wonderfully. It's a little bit different than hearing because I can hear more things, but they sound a little different. Like there's no more bass, I mean, with this thing, I mean, it's all through a magnet right there, so there's no eardrum, there's no bass. Everything is kind of a little bit higher, I guess I would say. So it works great. It's a little different though. I graduated in June, and I'm going to go to OSU next year and study engineering. What else? Sorry, I'm kind of nervous, Being hearing, I mean, I can't say I wouldn't wish I was hearing, I mean, I know a lot of people who have deaf pride. A lot of my family is deaf, and they're proud of being deaf, and I completely understand that. I wish I was hearing, honestly, but what happens happens. And I had a little bit of trouble making friends and stuff when I grew up. I can communicate with people one-on-one very efficiently, but when it comes to large groups, it's much harder because I cannot read everyone's lips at the same time. So I don't know if a lot of you guys know, but deaf people are very anti-Cochlear implant, and my family was actually a little bit mad when I started talking about, well, not my mom, my dad. My deaf family was a little bit mad when I started talking about getting an implant, and so they were kind of annoyed about that for a little while, but then they realized that, it's my choice, I can have that choice. So my hearing is actually going to completely go within the next few years, and my left ear, my right ear has a Cochlear implant, so hopefully that'll stay level and nothing will happen. I can get another implant in my right ear or my left ear at some point if I wish. That's nice. The ESD was really helpful to me during my whole school career, and I really appreciate that, guys. You guys were always there for me, and you always had somebody to help me, keep going in school. So I appreciate that. I think I'm kind of done with this. Thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions or anything?
No.
I was wondering, will you have a full-time interpreter with you at OSU?
What's that?
Will you have an interpreter with you at OSU?
I will. either using a full-time interpreter or if there's a CapTel, and it's like a laptop kind of thing. And I'm going to work with the interpreters and maybe try CapTel for a couple of weeks, but that's my main plan is to continue working with interpreters. So, yeah.
I know the answer, but I want you to share it with everyone. So now that you have a cochlear implant, does that mean you now have hearing in that ear?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, like, for one thing, I mean, like right now I can hear myself, and then the minute I just pull this thing down, nothing at all. So it's kind of interesting. So, like if I like I'm playing a sport, and then I jump up, sometimes it'll fall off, and it's like, whoa, what's going on? Yeah, but I can hear many things. Like when I first got it, I turned on a water faucet in my house. It was kind of interesting because I'd never heard water run. I went camping and I was actually blowing up like this big airbag. It was kind of a pain, but you know. So and then like this weird sound, I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was like a squirrel or something. And then I looked at my stepsister. I'm like, what is that? She's like, it's a bird singing. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. And so it works really good. It's kind of like I said before. It's kind of different because there's no any longer a whole lot of bass, you know, because I don't use my eardrum anymore. But it works great, and I'm happy that I got it. So it's a personal choice. Not every student wants it, but if they're considering, I would say go for it. You know, it works great. So yeah.
With your implant, will the hearing in that ear, will it get better, or what you hear now?
Well, I'm supposed to be practicing, and I'm not really because I'm, you know, as you said, kind of lazy. So, but the longer I've been using it, like when I first got it, everything kind of sounded like beeps, just like little beeping and stuff, and it was kind of actually annoying. Now it sounds more like actual sound, and so this one will continue to decline, and then this one will either stay level, or if I practice enough, it'll actually go up a little bit more. So I can hopefully understand language even better.
Is that your brain picking up the sound?
Yeah, well, they kind of, the way it works is, so hearing aids, they go in through the sound processor and then in the microphone, and then it becomes louder, sends it through my ear through just the tube, and then it goes into my eardrum just much louder than a normal person's ear. This thing, on the other hand, is a little bit different. It goes in through the microphone, and then it hits the sound processor, goes up this wire, actually turns into an electromagnetic signal, and a demo actually, kind of awesome. What's kind of cool about this thing is things now stick to my head. There's like a little supercomputer inside, and it translates it back into an electronic signal. And there's two wires. One goes into a muscle, so that in case like a surge, you don't get your ear blown off and catch on fire or something. And then the other one acts as just a little electrode, and it has 27 electrodes on it. It's like a little wire. It's curved, and they put it in the Cochlear, and it hits the nerves, and then the nerves stimulate my brain. Yeah.
So how do you practice? What are you supposed to do?
Well, I'm supposed to not wear my hearing aid as much as I am, but I found that this one actually, because there's no bass, this one actually works better with the higher tones, and then my actual hearing works better with lower tones, because my chart graph is like here's the normal level, just flat up here, and then so this would be like this would be low notes, and this is high notes over here. So low notes I can actually hear fairly well. It's like just a little bit below the average person, and then it kind of dips down like that. So I found that this one works better for low, and this one works better for high. I'm supposed to be not wearing my hearing aid, which I don't do. And then I also have like a DVD that I'm supposed to be practicing, and I'm not sure what it is exactly. It's supposed to be like sound and stuff. So.
Oh my God.
No. My mom actually convinced me to watch it, and then we put it in the DVD player, and then it's actually a computer thing, so I have to download it on the computer, so I'm too lazy to do that. So. Is there any more questions? Okay, well.
I have a question about your aunt and your cousin, how have they pretty much accepted
Yeah, they
what's going on with you and the cochlear implant?
Yeah, well, when my aunt and my cousin first found out about it, my cousin was going to Gallaudet at the time, and she sent me a couple angry text messages. She was very happy about it. She's very deaf pride. She's going to the deaf university in DC. So their cochlear implant is kind of rounded on. Most kids at Gallaudet, if they have cochlear implants, they don't actually wear this one. And I personally think that's kind of sad. But my aunt was pretty much fine with it. She's kind of open to these things. She's a dorm advisor at OSD, Oregon School for the Deaf, and she's been teaching kids about cochlear implants and all that kind of stuff for a long time. And so my aunt was fine with it. My cousin was a little angry, like I said, but after a while, she realized it was my choice, and so she was okay with it. Yeah. Okay, thank you guys.